Hello, everybody, and welcome to our post-wrestling Survivor Series review. I am John Pollock, joined as always by Mr. Wai Ting. Hello, Wai.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. A WWE pay-per-view that finished in under 3 hours.
Is that so?
Perfect length of a pay-per-view, I've got to say.
I mean, how often have they not finished under 3 hours recently?
They've been hitting the 3-hour mark, but tonight's show in particular, I thought we were easily going past the 3-hour mark. So it was there was a no time wasted feel on this show, I felt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, we are here to discuss the Survivor Series, and of course, the big news in the closing seconds of the Survivor Series. There was Living Color with their brand new remastered version and of Cult of Personality, and out walks one Bill Phil himself, Phil Brooks, almost a decade removed from his WWE exit and returning to the WWE. And your initial reaction, Way, to the return of CM Punk to WWE?
I don't, I haven't been online this entire day, so I don't know what the expectations were heading into this pay-per-view. I wasn't really online even during the pay-per-view itself. So I was completely shocked. I was not expecting it. I think, had read recent reports saying that this was not going to happen, and I pretty much just kind of accepted it. I didn't think the show needed it, to be honest. So it was not something I expected. So I was totally surprised.
Is this something that you look at? I mean, for the next, this is obviously going to be the talking point coming out of this show, and obviously this can go one of two ways. It can go the way that here is this guy that is coming back, and this is truly going to be the run to kind of solidify his legacy. And for those that are looking at this AEW run as a disappointment, this is that opportunity to have a major league run here in WWE for what should probably be the last full-time run of his career. The man is 45 years old now. And then there's going to be the others that once the freshness of this wears off, will there be those inevitable problems? It's a very different company than the one 10 years ago, and even the one several years ago. This is no longer Vince McMahon's company. You can also argue this is not Paul Levesque's company. Like, yes, he is the head creative force, but he is a cog in the wheel of TKO that is now running this, that is in control. And I'm certain that in time we will see kind of the machinations that led to this. But I don't think anyone, I think the percentages going into the show tab this return as low, but I think anyone can look at this as, if obviously he wanted to do it. And for the WWE, they were in a position where they could take it or leave it. I don't think they need CM Punk, but you're looking at a time when this Raw deal means a whole lot for this company to get this next television deal. And it could be not finalized till next summer once the NBA deals are set in place. And you're coming off a really fantastic number up against Monday Night Football this past Monday. And Punk is, if the idea is let's put every bullet in the chamber as we go into these negotiations, and listen, the guy is a massive star, a huge, compelling figure for us. And listen, if we can bring him in and he turns into an asset for us, well, even better. It just makes us look like here we are the company that can fully manage a CM Punk, as difficult as that might be to process given the long history between Punk and this company.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think strictly looking at it, even regardless of whether or not they're up for TV negotiation, which I don't even know how much that is relative to CM Punk's hiring. I think all they're simply looking for is, can we make money off of this guy? Can we generate, interest in our product by bringing this guy in? And all the concerns that I think you and I and every fan has discussed, I'm sure has been discussed even more thoroughly, by the people that are in charge of this billion-dollar company. And despite all that, they feel that it's worthy to take a risk because they feel like the investment is worthwhile and that the return is worthwhile. we've kind of talked about his potential return to WWE like at length, and I think everything still applies. I think here he's a small fish in a big pond, and will likely be much, especially after recent events, handled much more, on a much shorter leash. So I don't think the same concerns may apply, but locker room morale, I think, would be one. So I'd be very curious to know what sort of internal discussions may be taking place, how much talent were made aware of it, and were talent even maybe at some points lied to about it? Do they feel, like they were tricked? But in the name of good business and maybe secret keeping, I mean, I think all of that can kind of be sort of like wiped away through those explanations.
I don't even need anyone to come out and state it, that I'm sure this one was kept to a very small circle of people. Like I would, like pure guessing, I would imagine like Punk showed up at the arena probably during this main event. I mean, it was probably their whole like just have him under lock and key and probably having a camera on him from the second he left his house to the walking into the Allstate Arena, and all of that will be used for production down the road. But I mean, listen, they treated him like coming in. He's an instant main eventer. Totally stole whatever thunder Randy Orton might have had for his return, because coming out of this show, Randy Orton's return was already secondary. Like 15 minutes after this guy returned.
It's true, but I mean, so what, right? Like in the end, you have this. To me, reminded me a whole lot of like that was all out, right? All not this all out, but the other all out where Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole both made their appearances at the same time. I mean, you already kind of got one surprise that maybe a lot of, I mean, we were all expecting already in Randy, but to get the surprise on top of the surprise, I think only heightens the feeling we all have coming out of this show and our opinion on the product itself. If it was already at a high level, well, I think it's that much higher when you deliver a surprise on top of another surprise.
Yeah. And I mean, I would certainly put him on Monday's show, and I think that's going to be a massive show for the company. And I think it'll be just another example of CM Punk drawing a big number. And this will be a very, I mean, certainly I think if you're CM Punk and you're looking at 44% in this year's Hall of Fame ballot, like what do I need to do to make up that 16%? This year is going to determine that.
I'm sure that's exactly why he decided to come back. What are your personal feelings on CM Punk's return?
I think they are. See, I wouldn't have said that it was like there was a period where I would say when Punk had first left that there was so much reason to try and reconcile with CM Punk in 2014. There was such a demand, and this continued for years. And I think in time, once Punk talked about it more, when he came to AEW, and the fact that he spoke like this guy was concerned he was going to die in this company, that this was a experience for him that was whether you feel that was a realistic outcome of his life being at risk, this guy had severe problems in this company that I think really messed him up. I mean, his words were, I was sick, and had to get away from wrestling and had to leave wrestling for 7.5 years because of getting this all out of his system. Now he has gone through AEW. I think it was, as much as the greatest critic of CM Punk can come at him, I do not doubt that this man has a tremendous desire to go out there, and I don't think he wants this last run to be his last chapter in professional wrestling. I think he still has an incredible passion for it. And if he's coming in with that headspace and the ability to divorce himself from all the stuff about getting fired on his wedding day and the whole lawsuit stuff, as much as, like all that stuff, that's if that guy can put that all as water under the bridge, I don't know how many people could do that, to be quite honest. But I mean, he's entering this and he knows what the deal is. But again, it is a very different company now. And perhaps that, like, I would be curious who were the key people negotiating with him here. And if you're looking at Paul Levesque and they have their history, I mean, on all we can judge on is those final minutes of the pay-per-view, and he made him feel like CM Punk is the biggest star on our roster. That's how he was presented.
Yeah, sure.
It's not like this guy was presented coming in and it's like, okay, you're gonna have to pay your dues to at least on night one, this guy was given, he was the star of the show easily.
Coming out of it, yeah. You know, so as far as like everything to do with the way he left the company 10 plus years ago, however long it was at this point, I get the sense like that stuff has maybe been forgiven, especially when those reports were out there of him actually going backstage to try to talk, to Levesque and other members of the WWE. There's also basically the basic sort of fact of this being Punk's only option to work in professional wrestling, being paid at the level that I think he's accustomed to, with the level of exposure that he's accustomed to. And when you only have one place to work, well, you're probably going to forgive a lot, maybe including a grudge from 10 years ago, a big grudge nonetheless, but still, it felt like maybe he had, as of like, those reports had already moved past that. The audience perception of CM Punk, I think, continues to be a really interesting one. I mean, somebody's pointing out in the chat room that, a lot of his promos in AEW were about WWE. He spent the last 10 years talking about how miserable and how much he hates being in this company. Do you see any audience?
Welcome to professional wrestling, folks. Just circumstances change, and people are allowed to as well change their opinions. Right. Listen, we are probably going to be looking at a CM Punk that will probably be booked in Saudi Arabia next year. There are that's, you know what the deal is coming in here, and there will be those that view him as a hypocrite. I also look at, people are allowed to flip-flop on opinions over time and changes. I hope it's sincere, though. I hope he's not entering a system that is going to be destructive to him. And I could argue that this guy has a love for professional wrestling, but it also has, look at the AEW run. Don't even talk about WWE. Like AEW, I think probably did a number on him mentally as well. And some of it brought on by himself. A lot of it probably brought on by himself.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm just more so speaking about audience perceptions. Certainly we're in Chicago tonight, and that's going to be, the biggest possible babyface reaction you could have with the CM Punk. Do you see negative reactions being attached to him either in any sort of live setting or continuously through online discourse?
Yeah.
Or do we simply forget about everything and, hey, this is like the fresh new toy in the WWE toy box, and we can all get excited about these potential matchups?
The comeback is going to override a lot. He's going to come out, providing he's on the show Monday night. I think he comes out, he's going to cut an amazing speech, and he is going to probably just set the tone for this return. And you're going to have an audience that is going to treat this as, here is the prodigal son that has come home. Of course, you'll have people that are going to look at him negatively. That's to be expected, but is that going to be the overwhelming majority? I doubt it. And I think it's very apropos here at that Nick Houseman is here at the press conference that I have on here. Will we get a CM Punk press conference tonight?
We'll find out, I'm sure.
We'll find out. It was interesting, though, and just circling it and tying it in with Nick Houseman, who was on with Brandon Thurston and I this week, is that one of the things that Nick had spoken about was, from those that he had spoken to at WWE, this idea of WWE having this desire to focus on the younger stars in AEW, watch them kind of come up and then go for their young stars. And then when the WWE talent is starting to age out, letting those talents go, let those older talents go to AEW. And in this case, it's not just an older talent, but it's also a talent that has caused so much chaos that if you are a Tony Khan tonight, are you looking at this as, damn, they got him and this is a huge get for them? Or are you looking at it of, this is going to be great for them short term, jury's out long term? Maybe this will be way more trouble than it's worth. There's no way to know. You would think that this guy is going to have an understanding that this is it for me in a major league setting that I can make this amount of money with. But listen, this has been it's been both the biggest. I think the chip on CM Punk's shoulder has both benefited him and greatly hurt him in his career. And there's been both. And you can argue that overall it's done him better. Like, he would not be at this level without that. But at the same time, he has also cost himself in certain situations too.
Mm-hmm. I think it's impossible to tell the future with this man. This is probably one of the most unpredictable, like, top stars we've ever had in the industry. If you told me 3 months from now he'll be out of this company, like, I none of us would be surprised. At the same time, I think the hope is always out there every time somebody has gone through what this guy has gone through, that his return would be different. I mean, we all thought his return back to AEW earlier this year would be entirely different, and yet you can argue it was even worse. The big difference, of course, is that this is a completely different system that, and again, this guy is going to be on a much shorter leash. I'm sure he's going to be on his best behavior. We also don't even know what sort of schedule he's going to be on.
Like, this is all fresh. We don't know, like, length of a deal. Like, this, for all we know, like, this could be a short-term deal. It could be a long-term deal. It could, like, let's see where this goes. You're right. Schedule wise, I mean, this is a guy that's had several major injuries over the last 2 years. Like, do you want him there every single week? Wrestling, no less. We're going to find out. But, for the night, like, this is going to be the major story. And we'll look back on this in a year's time, and we'll look back at the CM Punk project. Was this a great pickup for them? And if not, is it going to be that detrimental to WWE either? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And their ability to keep this a secret, I think this is probably, like, this is one of the biggest surprises I think they've ever kept. And I'm just reading some of Sean Ross Sapp's tweets here. He's saying that I'm told Triple H personally called for CM Punk's music at production. So meaning, I guess he stepped into production and just at that point maybe revealed even to his own staff that this was happening. And that's also what's he saying? He didn't know until 2 minutes before his music hit and he walked through the stage. So you can still keep suspense alive, I suppose, these days.
I mean, let's not discredit either the fact, like, who believed R-Truth was showing up tonight.
Who was talking about a
very small circle?
Who's talking about R-Truth showing up tonight? Yeah, 3 big returns tonight.
Huge.
Yes,
very big. I'm sure people will want to talk about CM Punk later, so we will be opening up feedback and calls to our members at postwrestlingcafe.com. That is where you can go and support Post Wrestling and get multiple bonus shows per week, including Collision Course that will be coming out Sunday with Kate and John, Rewind to SmackDown with myself and Wai Ting, and Rewind Away, a bi-weekly show where we go back and review the best and worst that pro wrestling history has to offer. This Thursday, unfortunately, it's some of the worst as we chat December to Dismember 2006, featuring the Extreme Elimination Chamber from Augusta, Georgia.
Was CM Punk on that one? I forget.
Yes, he was in the Elimination Chamber match. So it all ties in together.
Perfect. Wonderful. Yeah. And thank you to all of you guys watching us live right now at youtube.com/postwrestling. Do us a favor, give us a subscribe and a like. We are still a fledgling channel on YouTube, and every little bit helps. And of course, if you want to really support us, you can get a question in later on with a super chat that we will get to. I'm sure a lot more CM Punk discussion as we get to your feedback after our Survivor Series War Games review.
Yes. And just monitoring the press conference here. I mean, it's been Hunter just taking questions for this first 20 minutes. So if we have news to pass along, we will. But let's get into Survivor Series itself. I thought this was going to be the biggest headline way. As of just before the showtime, WrestleTix was reporting 17,080 tickets distributed. On the air, Michael Cole announcing 17,138. Almost fell out of my seat. I mean, wow. This might have been a totally legit number that Michael Cole provided. And pretty much it's almost verbatim for every WWE broadcast. They always extend by like at least 2,000 people. That's usually the amount that they tack on here. This sounds like this was a totally legitimate number that Michael Cole gave out.
Are you aware what the Allstate Arena tops out at in WWE speak? Like, what's the highest like they've ever done for
So
that
they
opening?
announced a slightly higher number for the WrestleMania we went to at the Allstate Arena in 2006, but I
22.
almost guarantee you that was an inflated number because of the fact the stage was much bigger at that WrestleMania. This was an extremely stripped down setup. Like you did have the cages out there and the pods that they had to wait in, but I mean, dude, I don't know if it had to do with the layout. Dude, they put the kickoff panel outside in 35 Fahrenheit weather. They
Yeah.
had to do an hour, and you could see they're blowing out the air. I could not believe they threw this panel outside. I don't know if that was just hey, we're putting seats there, but man, I felt awful for this panel.
It's a very good question. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that it might be related to that. Hey, we want to open up a few more seats, and this year they went legitimate. And how much of that? What do you think is the decision making behind going legit with these numbers?
I think it's a mentality that they have. Like, let's be honest about it. Listen, the business is awesome right now, and this is an incredibly successful Survivor Series. This is probably going to end up being the most successful event they've ever run at the Allstate Arena. It's going to be the most successful Survivor Series in history. It's like we always say, when the real numbers are impressive, why do we have to exaggerate? Why don't you just have a positive response instead of like people that are there? Why did they say 20,000 when they had 17,138? And that's already impressive. Like, dude, they were packed to the rafters. This was a super hot ticket. The get-in price was over $100. Like, there's a huge demand. We can just go with that.
Does the UFC inflate numbers, or have they
Yes,
been known to?
they do inflate though. I mean, not to the same level
Mhm.
that WWE does, but getting the Polestar numbers now, like there is some exaggeration that may just be a difference of like comps and stuff like that. It's nowhere like WWE, but sometimes you do see some little
So
discrepancies.
how
Yeah,
much of this might be TKO's decision?
it could be like just why. I don't know. I don't know what the
Mm.
thinking is. I don't think it's anything like a concern like of an SEC level. Like they've been doing this forever, like inflating numbers. Yeah, it's just a welcome change. So the kickoff again, Kayla Braxton, Booker T, Jackie Redmond, and Peter Rosenberg out in the cold. Byron Saxton interviewed Santos Escobar, just said that he delivered justice to Ray for living in his shadow. And they call themselves mentors, but what they really are gatekeepers. And Dragon Lee has spirit, but spirit doesn't win fights. And he's going to make Dragon Lee a cautionary tale when he faces him tonight. And we get the results. Team Belair gets the advantage based on the Ruffles poll online.
Yes, as the panel started eating chips and talking through it, you must have loved this.
I didn't even have the sound on, to be quite honest,
Oh
so I
goodness.
can't say it was bothering me.
Uh, First of all, like we're talking about the attendance and the clear success of this particular show. Can you see them bringing it to a stadium next year?
The attendance. Oh, Survivor Series.
Survivor Series, War Games specifically.
Um, I wouldn't discount it. They seem to be very. I'm surprised, honestly. They're going to Germany and they're going to Paris next year, and I don't know what the situation is in that particular area of France that they're going to, but Germany for certain they totally could have run a stadium there.
Right.
Like there's such a huge demand in Europe. I'm surprised they didn't go there, but they could. Like I could see SummerSlam, Survivor Series. They have greatly elevated Survivor Series standing over these last two editions with War Games.
It's entirely thanks to the War Games, format. So at this point, it's very clear that it's here to stay. I mean, we spent decades talking about Survivor Series kind of being like a classic big four pay-per-view that doesn't even feel like it's, I don't know, top 5, top 6 anymore. And now it's really clawed its way back to feeling like an actual big four with a match type that is an actual attraction on the level at least of an elimination chamber, if not even approaching a Royal Rumble right now. So I could totally see them bringing it to a bigger venue next year.
There was a year it did a bad number on pay-per-view. Vince was ready to ditch Survivor Series, like
Right.
after all of the years. And this was only in like the last 15 years. And I guess, at the end of the day, they argued that, well, probably the name isn't the reason people aren't buying this. But it was a
Mhm.
brand that, I mean, if they had gotten rid of it, I mean, there would have been the nostalgia connection to it. But I don't think they would have lost any sleep over dropping Survivor Series. Like it was just, had really been, usurped by your Money in the Banks and those shows. But hey, they've done a great job these last 2 years, and the War Games has been a winning concept so far. And you ride that until it feels flat.
And that's something I imagine you have to entirely credit to Lebec, and the concept that he brought back under NXT, and now a very clear success on the main roster. The other aspect of this whole thing, and maybe I wanted to talk about before we get into the review, was the whole Raw versus SmackDown theming of it. I mean, the logo is still very much red and blue. The colors tonight were all red and blue, and you had those segments with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis in the lead up to this that ended up really playing no factor at all throughout tonight's matches. There were no Raw versus SmackDown themed anything. No presence from Aldis or Pierce at all tonight. So, like, what was all that about?
I think it's been very awkward in the sense of this brand split that it seems they're on it, they're off it. Like, they did the whole draft, they installed 2 GMs, and let's remember, like, this was also during a period where, like, Vince was suddenly back in the mix and he was having a lot more say. And then it seems, he's more removed now than that time. I'm sure a lot of that, it's creative direction of how much of the brand split do they want to play up. And I would say this is, like, it's there, but it's not this definitive, Raw and SmackDown on either side. I think you're going to see mixing when necessary. And to be honest, I think the audience they do not respond to Raw versus SmackDown. It's not a concept that has clicked, and it's there if it ever heats up, but it's not. So let's not go that direction.
It seems like something served fine for TV, but as far as matchmaking goes, I mean, the idea of, hey, I'm on this show, therefore I'm going to hate automatically the other person on the other show, it really has not worked for several years now. So I'm glad to see that they're pretty much moving away from that, at least for this month, or this year, I should say.
First matchup is the Women's War Games match with Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Shotzi against Io Sky, Bayley, Asuka, and Kairi Sane in the Women's War Games match. Becky and Bayley start the match, and did you notice there was there were Ruffles logos around the ring?
I think a few, yes.
Yeah, did you catch them? I mean, the arena pretty much just changed into a customizable Ruffles potato chip arena.
I mean, that this might have been one of the higher drawing War Games matches in all of his history, perhaps.
I bet Nick Khan's watching this match and he's just picturing the Scrooge the Scrooge McDuck scene. And where
could we have a Ruffles branded metal pipe that the wrestlers could have used, perhaps? Where else?
Lost opportunity.
Yeah, where else could we have jammed a logo?
That should have been a Slim Jim.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Instead of kendo sticks, just the giant Slim Jim. Yes.
Yeah, everyone was tying in Punk's return to that logo that they had for Slim Jim, where it was the knuckles together that read Long Boys.
What? Really?
You'd need to see it. I mean, you could certainly see. It was a stretch, but by the end, the conspiracy theorists went out. So Bayley and Becky start this match, and it's a very hot crowd. They're reacting to everything. They had a pretty great crowd tonight in Chicago. Becky tosses her into the fence and applies the disarmer when Dakota Kai is just by the ringside area and uses the kendo stick. And this is all allowed, and feeds the kendo stick in. And Bayley just attacks Becky as the 5-minute period ends. So now every 3 minutes, a new entrant comes in. We start with Shotzi, and this is the War Games potluck, where you get to enter the match and you get to bring in your weapon of choice with regards to Fat Boy Slim. And this crowd only wanted tables. That's all they wanted. F your kendo sticks. Don't even joke about a trash can lid being the option of what you're bringing in. Give us a goddamn table. That's what the crowd wanted.
Again, another missed opportunity for a Ruffles logo on that table.
Io Sky comes after Shotzi. She brings a chain into the ring, and Becky gets busted open here and has to roll over to the referee to communicate and sell for a while. Then Bianca Belair.
They mentioned that this was Io Sky's 5th War Games, and she has been in every WWE iteration of a women's War Games match, which is very impressive and kind of surprising to me. She's one of the more tenured War Games veterans, maybe in all of history at this point.
There you go. We have our next streak in professional wrestling, the Io Sky War Games streak. So Belair comes in and starts whipping Bayley and Sky with her braid. Then Bayley uses a chair to shield the braid, and Bayley and Sky each grab a braid because she's got two of them coming out, and they flip her off the turnbuckle. She lands on her feet, and then the three are standing above Bayley and Sky as the countdown begins. Kairi Sane is next in. She grabs the trash can lid, and boy, did this crowd not want to see a trash can lid in this match. Sky does a pop-up on Sane to come down with an elbow to Shotzi, who's buried underneath all of these chairs. Charlotte Flair is next in her first War Games match.
Mm-hmm.
How's she never gotten into one of these? I guess there's only been two on the main roster. So
yeah,
that does make sense. So she's involved, she hits two natural selections off the turnbuckles, as Michael Cole calls them blockbusters, and Corey Graves says, you could almost say they were natural selections, and it was like a light bulb went over Cole's head. He's like, you're right. You're right.
He's too busy looking up his Triple Tails notes.
He was, I had plenty of Michael Cole notes on this particular broadcast. And then we see Io Sky climb up to the top of the cage. She sends down a chain, and Kai hooks up a trash can to the chain, to which Io reels it up to the top, unhooks it, puts the trash can over her head, and leaps off the top with a high cross onto everyone.
This was a spot she did in 2020, I believe, in the prior War Games match, and it's awesome. It's so weird seeing a giant flying trash can, and probably incredibly scary to do without being able to see.
Are you kidding me? This would be frightening to do. Could you imagine if they had asked her to turn around to do a moonsault?
That's a Sasuke move. And you have to be that crazy in order to try it.
A great spot. Crowd went insane. And then Asuka's the final entrant and brings in a fire extinguisher with the kendo stick. So the match beyond begins at 24 minutes and 20 seconds. And they go about just over 9 minutes. Asuka missed Shotzi in the face. So the question now remains, what percentage of Shotzi has been compromised by the mist?
Clearly none. She seemed to escape. I don't think in this universe miss works the same. It doesn't corrupt, I suppose.
So yes, Io Sky did hit the big high cross off the top with the trash can lid, but that was not the spot of the match because, dare I say, maybe we have a bootleg patron out there, because then Charlotte Flair climbs to the top of the steel cage and all the women are set up, and she goes for the moonsault, and dude, Io Sky got cracked with this moonsault, and Graves, dude, it was like he got to his feet. She hit it. And it was verbatim what I said at the same time. She actually hit a target with this moonsault, and boy, did she.
Clearly, she was listening last night on Rewind to SmackDown in your criticism frequently of this moonsault not hitting anybody. She definitely made contact with this one on Io's head predominantly.
Oh, dude, Io took this one. If ever there was one of her moonsaults that could have been missed, this was the one maybe. But hey, she did hit it.
Maybe that's why she doesn't like to land it so much, because whoever catches it.
This shot, they zoomed out for it as well,
which I love. I usually love high spots when you can see the actual distance. I hate it when they close up. I mean, on replays fine, but the actual shot, you want to see the distance that the person is traveling, and it was a very impressive moonsault.
Flair and Becky work together. They double team Kairi with a power bomb, and then they're staring at one another and they embrace and have a hug. How would you rank this hug?
I thought it was a little bit aggressive, didn't you, John?
I thought that, yeah, Becky was
it felt very forced.
It was almost like she was being electrocuted when she put her arms around Charlotte, because dude, she was like moving all over the place. I think Charlotte wanted to have a genuine embrace here, but Becky was just I don't know. She's like,
yeah, let's hug.
We're hugging.
It is War Games, okay? CM Punk was probably hanging out backstage. She's just pumped up, all right, for this hug. I thought maybe a better moment was last night. I don't know if this was on camera or not, but when they went for the pinky thing that they used to do, I thought that was actually more than you needed for this. But I mean, a hug does get a bigger reaction, I suppose.
I think coming out of this, I don't think they should just separate these two on brands. Honestly, these two should even if it's just going for the tag titles or doing something together, I do feel there's an interest now. Like, you went to the effort of portraying this reunion on screen, that it would seem like a waste to just they go back to their separate brands and you don't revisit this.
Let's also remember you might have Bayley coming out of this no longer part of Damage Control, and the history between those three, of course, and of course it'll lead to more speculation about maybe their fourth potentially making a return as well. But yeah, I definitely would keep them together at least for a few weeks.
So Graves is we go through all these different spots here. Bayley is breaking up all these submissions. Graves calls her the MVP for all the saves that she is making. Belair then sprays Asuka with the fire extinguisher. Sky hits a chair shot to Belair from behind, and then Sane with this crazy spinning trash can lid that nails Shotzi. Bayley then takes the bullet, saving Kairi from a spear by Charlotte, and Shotzi hits the senton to Bayley. She takes the KOD, and finally a manhandle slam off the turnbuckle through the table. So Bayley just takes it from all four women and is pinned in 33 minutes and 37 seconds as the babyfaces prevail. They celebrate on top of the cage, and it really does feel like Bayley is going to be the one that is put out to pasture here by Damage Control.
Or at least they will spend some time maybe telling that story and continuing the tension and teases of whether or not Bayley, who's clearly going babyface at this point, whether or not she is going to be a part of Damage Control. I thought this was a good War Games match. I felt like it was maybe a step below some of the women's War Games matches we've seen within the WWE, but I thought in terms of spectacle, they more than delivered, I think, what you've kind of come to expect. The trash can spot was great. Charlotte's moonsault was very impressive. I felt like they were at a disadvantage having the baby faces, basically when the Ruffles coin toss here.
They were at a disadvantage having the advantage.
Yes, exactly.
I don't disagree. I really thought that they could have taken what we were discussing, that make Charlotte and Becky the first two, and it's like and you could tell the story throughout the match, like they can't get along at the beginning, and they're going to blow the numbers advantage because of their history.
Yeah.
And throughout the match, you tell the story that leads up to the hug, and it kind of offsets that. But you're right. I mean, there's a reason the heels always have the advantage. It's such a better story to tell. It's easy.
The whole point is you're getting a series of hot tags from the baby faces coming in to bail the heels out. And by having the baby faces be in an advantage, you could get away with it. But like you said, John, you need to do something to somehow put the baby faces at a disadvantage despite winning the coin toss. And they really didn't. Like, they just had Shotzi basically lie around in the corner. Maybe you had a brief moment or some brief moments after the miss, but that came kind of late into the match. So to me, the bulk of this match before the match beyond wasn't all that dramatic, but I think it'll be remembered for the big spots, and I think they had some nice sequences at the end too, just when everybody else was in. So you have that, so coming out of this, what do we have? What are some of the directions you think?
You have the Bayley story, obviously. I guess the question about whether Becky and Charlotte, this was just for the night, or you go somewhere further with it. And I think you can definitely go with any of these women in terms of challenges for EO, I guess minus Becky, but you could do a short-term program with Shotzi. It might be a little early to revisit Bianca this early for that, but
I think they need to keep Shotzi hot, like coming out of this.
Shotzi would be the one I would go with. I think people are a little tired on Charlotte and Becky in this title picture at the moment, that they can find something else to do, and they could still be involved with Damage Control, but you're building up to a Rumble challenge, which does not have to be your big Mania program. That's when Charlotte and Belair can get more involved there.
Yeah, she, and Shotzi had a presence in this match. I didn't think it was so big that we're coming out of it talking about Shotzi. Like, I would have had her get one of those big spots, that we'd be talking about. So I think there's still some work that needs to be done, but to get her up to the level, we'll maybe have her challenge for at least 1 month.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're looking at the Rumble, like, we're talking 2 months away, so they have tons of time to build something up. But not the obvious like match that comes out of this for Io Sky, but you do have a program with Bayley and going in that direction. And the commentary was good, with Graves kind of pointing out all that Bayley was doing in the match. Then we go and Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Tozawa, Otis, and Maxine are eating Ruffles potato chips. Wouldn't you bet? be stunned to know this. And Pretty Deadly enter, calling them crisps. And they argue with Otis, who says they're chips. And they argue back and forth until the bowl gets thrown. And there, after more than a year off television, R-Truth returns by emerging from behind the couch. And when asked where he's been, he says, I've been here the whole time. And says, they are ruffles. They're not chips or crisps. They're ruffles, you see. And asks Tozawa to do the ruffle shuffle. Beautiful day this was not, but R-Truth is back from a torn quad that he sustained on November the 1st of 2022.
Happy to see him back in the mix.
And dude didn't age a day in this last 12 months.
I think he's reverse aging. Honestly, he hasn't changed really since 2002 when we first all saw him. I mean, again, more money kind of being made here, just kind of falling from the ceiling of this very makeshift set.
All these performers getting their percentage of the deal.
well, listen, at this point, I'm kind of happy to see Tozawa actually get a role and keep his job. And I suppose same with the R-Truth as well. This was like harmless to me. Like it actually was a bit of a, kind of funny with the ruffle shuffle. There was a bit more effort put into this than I think your typical, Snickers ad that you would have seen.
Were you expecting Otis to do the truffle shuffle?
The truffle shuffle? What's that?
I'm afraid to ask the next question. Have you seen the Goonies?
Oh, why put me in this position, dude?
Oh, way, dude.
Stop. Tell me about the truffle shuffle, please.
No, your homework is to watch the Goonies before the end of the year, okay?
My homework is to try to sleep, okay? So I don't think I'll be watching the Goonies.
Sami Zayn is with Jey Uso, and Zayn informs him Randy Orton hasn't shown up yet. Jey says, well, why would he? Why would he want to team with me after what I did to him with the bloodline? It's all my fault. Zayn says, don't worry about it. Fusion surgery, big deal. And Zayn says, you and I have history. We went to war last year, and I'll have your back no matter what, Jey. He's like, okay, cool. So they have this was actually, for all the criticism that AEW got last weekend, it was a very similar story that they played out here with the babyface, and is he going to show up at the end or not?
Oh, entirely.
Yeah.
And I spent quite a bit of time thinking about like why it is that one was reacted to so poorly, and the other.
There will be no complaints about this show long storyline. Because I think WWE is viewed like this is a WWE storyline type of thing. And I mean, it's really no different. I don't think anyone in their right mind thought you're getting screwed last week out of MJF, nor Randy Orton here. So
there's that. I think there's also maybe some of the idea that like Randy is not the only person in this match. He's not the champion defending, and you're not really kind of like the integrity of the main event is still there, regardless of whether or not Randy Orton is going to be a part of it. Whereas MJF being changed to Adam Cole, it completely disrupts it. It's also Randy Orton, who we haven't seen in like over a year, versus MJF, who, like the idea I think most of us watching wrestling knows of tonight was to make the Randy Orton return as big as possible. Whereas with MJF, when they did it with the ambulance, I mean, it was just for a slightly elevated pop that I don't even think was all that much bigger.
Let's discuss it now. Do you feel like when they started this tease of Randy not showing up, do you think part of that thinking was the idea of, okay, let these people think that it's going to be CM Punk, as far-fetched as that is, that, okay, if the Punk chants start, even better. We've got the ace in the hole that they are not aware of. That, I mean, you could have looked at this on the surface and be like, man, you're just inviting these Punk chants in Chicago that he's going to be this mystery man that replaces Orton, and it didn't matter to them. And there were definitely some Punk chants, but never overwhelming on this show.
Right. I wouldn't think that it was done maybe with the intent of, creating those chants, but if they came, I mean, clearly they weren't bothered by it.
Gunther against Miz for the Intercontinental Championship.
By the way, Shinsuke, like, so we kind of already spoke about Puck, but we didn't talk about all the teases leading up to tonight and how, Nakamura doing the GTSs, maybe some of those references on commentary. Do you think any of those were deliberate, or were they just coincidental?
I can't give you the answer, but the commentary I thought was really reading into things that I really don't believe. I would be stunned, to be honest, if Cole and Graves were aware of this. Number two, the GTSs to me, I don't know. I would be really hard pressed to imagine that they had something locked up that long ago, and there was no payoff to that, at least not tonight, to lead.
Well, this is the payoff, to get people talking, and then.
But why drop it then?
To make people think that he's not coming.
Okay, this is getting into territory that it literally doesn't matter.
I guess we will find out tomorrow if Nakamura is going to be Punk's first program.
Could be. Yeah. Wouldn't be the guy I would be bringing him back for, but if you want him to wrestle on TV, I guess. Mm-hmm. So something interesting that Corey Graves was doing, and ties into a story earlier this year, he kept bringing up the odds for the different matches, like Gunther being a minus 8,000 or minus 5,000 favorite. And it's just interesting. I can't ever remember them bringing up odds before.
I feel like occasionally, maybe, when it fits the story, if it's like, I don't know, WrestleMania. I think when it fits the story, I feel like I've heard them bring it up, but they
brought up Gunther being the minus 5,000 favorite and Zoe Stark being the plus 800 underdog on the show.
Right. Well, when it fits the underdog story that they're trying to tell, I mean, it's fair game, isn't it?
Well, how about this one? After Michael Cole reads out all these stats about Gunther's title reign and then the combined number of days of Miz's 8 title reigns as Intercontinental champion, not to mention that if he wins tonight, Miz will tie Chris Jericho as a 9-time champion. Cole thanks their social media member, John Chick, for all of these stats. We got the Chris Sampson shout out here from Michael Cole, basically. Their version of Chris Sampson, John Chick.
The alternate universe Chris Sampson. Wow. Going from not even calling the referees by name to now naming the statistician.
The social media team that is putting together notes for Michael Cole.
This is very, very strange.
So this match, it built around the idea of Miz bringing more of a fight than Gunther expected. And the whole basis of this match was, number one, to create a believable near fall that you could actually think the Miz would pin Gunther. And number two, to bring about as many K1 jokes as you could during some of Miz's offense. So Miz lands the first chop, and then he is drilled with one, and Miz goes down. But Miz ends up catching him by the leg and snapping his leg on the edge of the apron, wraps it around the post, and then the student of the game, as Michael Cole likes to refer to him, does the Bret Hart figure 4 around the post. And there is a trick to doing this spot that Bret and others have talked about. And I don't know if Miz is informed of the trick, because when he went to do this, it looked like he just let go and his head just smashed into the floor. And there's a way to avoid that, but hopefully the man didn't get
What is the trick? Do you happen to know it?
I have not done the trick because I've retired from professional wrestling, but this was like part of the reason Bret hurt himself in that Goldberg match was he did this spot right after, and there's a way to do it that cushions you going down, so you're not just, because you're free falling down when you apply the move, and if you don't protect yourself, your head is just smashing into the mat, and you don't know when you're hitting.
Does Bret bring up the figure 4 around the post in every interview that he's given since?
Not as many. No, not as many. So we continue here. Gunther takes control, and then Miz comes back with all of his kicks, and then he hits a tilt-a-whirl DDT, aka the high spot. And Gunther stops a skull-crushing finale, drop kicks and power bombs Miz for a 2 count, and then applies a rear naked choke. But Miz pulls off the turnbuckle pad and kicks the injured knee that he's been working on for Gunther, turns around, and with the referee dealing with the turnbuckle pad, Miz kicks a field goal into Gunther's balls. And this leads to a skull-crushing finale, and boom, mission accomplished. They got a believable near fall, and this crowd thought the Miz was beating Gunther and ending his streak.
Highly, highly successful. Yeah. And you know what? Everything was incredibly well done up until this point. So very, very well earned reaction.
Crowd was alive in a big way for the final few minutes. He goes for another skull-crushing finale, but Gunther turns it into a sleeper, and Miz goes into the rope, kicks off the turnbuckle, and rolls on top. As Graves notes, how Bret Hart beat Roddy Piper, the student of the game, watching WrestleMania 8 this morning, and gets a 2 count, lariat by Gunther, and Gunther comes off the top. And it's like the most awkward splash he's ever delivered. But whether it was intentional or not, Corey Graves explains, dude, his knee is totally messed up. Of course, it's going to be difficult. And it made complete sense for the match that his knee's all messed up and he still went for the splash. So he has to revert to a Boston Crab and then turns it into a Lion Tamer and taps out The Miz in 12:21, giving Gunther yet another finisher that he can use, which has been excellent. He's got all these different ones from the Last Symphony, the Power Bomb, the Splash, and Gunther is breathing heavy and just giving Miz this look like, man, he was a lot tougher than I thought. And Gunther retains the championship. I would say overall, this was a very good match. I'm not going to put it like this was match of the year or anything, but I thought this accomplished what they set out to do. Yeah.
Well, this was my match of the year. Gunther versus The Miz. I mean, I don't know if anybody is that the metric we're really going to be comparing this to? John, this was a good match, okay? And if it was not the match of the year, it might have been the match of Miz's career, okay? I'd be hard pressed to think about maybe a better one, at least in a single setting involving him. I think this feud has far exceeded all expectations, and we still don't even know if the original plan was to involve Ivar in this as a triple threat. The fact that whatever confusion came out of that Ricochet thing to now a singles match that was well built, anticipated, and elicited reactions like you got in this particular match, I think is so incredibly impressive. Listen, Miz he's not good in that none of his offense looks technically strong whatsoever. But when you have a connection to the audience, when you have a great opponent, you can create a great match without great looking moves. I mean, look at John Cena, look at Hulk Hogan, and Gunther brought probably the best match you could possibly out of a babyface Miz, which is not, the Miz's forte. I mean, I thought I'd be seeing pescados and planchas and Canadian destroyers from The Miz. I mean, he relied upon some of the tricks we've already seen.
He's kicking off of a turnbuckle.
Well, listen, if you're gonna maybe use any playbook, that was sort of his elevated game, is to do all the Brett references, and I thought they were a lot of fun. Figure four around the post, Brett Piper counter. And I also loved the way they used the low blow and the exposed turnbuckle to create some of those near falls. So I might have been, we might have both been hoping for a bit more of a chop fest here, particularly from Gunther towards The Miz. We didn't really get that, but nonetheless, this was a really well-received match by the crowd tonight, and I thought it turned out really well.
I wanted to see a Mizaker. That's what I wanted.
Maybe there's a sequel.
Could be. Do you notice how Miz, when he walks out, and part of his entrance is he cups in front to emphasize his big balls?
Yes.
I've never paid that much attention to his entrance until tonight. It has to be one of the dumbest things any professional wrestler does during their entrance.
Oh, it was one of the dumbest gimmicks, I would say, for the better part of his last year. He does it before every skull-crushing finale, actually.
This is all new to me. That I didn't realize how faithful he has been to the massive balls gimmick. Yeah. They promoted the WWE Experience coming to Riyadh in January.
So what is that? Is that it's a building, but
it's like a fan exhibit that they are putting up. It sounds like it's a permanent thing. It doesn't sound like it's just a pop-up that's going to be temporary. But
as Vince said,
they're putting their roots there in Riyadh. It's their home.
This is now their home. Do you expect maybe a physical Hall of Fame to be a part of this thing, or is that not going to be, you think?
Maybe they'll look at how successful this is, and that could be the next step. I think if you're going to put it in a place like Riyadh is kind of going to be the place that if it doesn't make sense to do here, we might just get offered to do it.
Where else do they have a building other than their own headquarters, I guess?
Yeah. I've always thought you should just do a pop-up Hall of Fame when you do your big pay-per-views and
Access, you mean?
Something like that. Yeah. Judgment Day's in the clubhouse, and in walks Dom, who has heard that Randy won't be here tonight. Great ear to the ground, Dominik. And Balor says, well, either it's going to be 5-on-4 or Randy does show up and he poisons them from the inside. I think this was Tony Khan's conversation he was having with someone tonight too.
Very interesting. Yes.
Priest then tells them to tell Drew about this news and tell him about that thing.
Which ended up being what? What thing?
The cash-in.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Very good.
Santos Escobar, Dragon Lee. Good amount of heat here for Santos during his entrance. They state Carlito will be out several weeks with the shoulder injury stemming from the angle on Friday. Santos attacks him and puts his leg in the stairs just like Ray, but Lee elbows his way free and hits this leaping Rana, sending Santos off the edge of the apron. Tope con hero, and now the crowd is behind Dragon Lee. Big chant for him. They're on the top. Escobar hits a Frankensteiner, and Lee kicks out. Santos can't believe this, so he tears at the mask. Crowd is loudly chanting at Santos, and Lee comes back with the double stomp, hits a super kick, and then trades shots and flying knees. Lee has to like deadlift him up to complete the sit-out powerbomb, and then when he goes for the Destino, he is stopped and hit with the South of the Border Destroyer, followed by the renamed Phantom Driver that is now the Destroyer Driver.
Is that honestly what they called it?
That's what Michael Cole called it, the Destroyer Driver, in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Can we please just leave it with the Destroyer Driver? Sounds like something like a 2-year-old would come up with as a finishing maneuver.
The Destroyer Driver? How does that even make sense? What, because he flips?
No, the Canadian Destroyer is the South of the Border Destroyer.
Yeah, which
and
is
the
awful.
Phantom Driver is now the Destroyer Driver, which very well could be Michael Cole just confusing both and calling it by mistake, and it still is the Phantom Driver. I would actually lean towards Michael Cole just making a mistake.
I'm going to wait for confirmation from Corey Graves, maybe on a future podcast before we commit to that.
Match was good. It had some high flying spots from Dragon Lee, but I wouldn't say this got to like another level where it was a big standout. It was Santos getting the win he needed to get, and Dragon Lee looked good for the time being, and the Chicago crowd did get behind him for a time, but I put this match at average.
Dragon Lee has had better matches, like even on TV, but I thought the reaction to him was unexpected and exceeded my expectations for a guy who really is just kind of getting started, is, pretty much firmly mid-card and was just inserted into this match last night. So the crowd was chanting his name. He got way more over than I expected. So I think even under a short amount of time, this was a good proof of concept for Dragon Lee, and that he's, shows them that he's deserving of a bigger push. Santos, I think you always expected to win. I mean, he really is fantastic. In ring, of course, but on the microphone is where he really shines. Even in the kickoff promo tonight, you could really just phone in a kickoff promo, because I mean, nobody really ever talks about or remembers them, but like he was really good even in that.
The New Day arrive in their Slim Jim car. More revenue opportunities. And you can see Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest having a conversation off to the side in the background. And Slim Jim is sponsoring the next match. And midway through, you were probably wishing that this crowd would snap into it.
I didn't think they were so quiet for this one, but okay.
Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stark for the Women's World Championship. Zoe Stark comes out, and it turns out that she had the same dream that Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza had, where they woke up with claw marks on them. And this was a gift from their deceased grandfather.
Maybe she has some blood that she doesn't know about, some family history she doesn't know about. Maybe she's a Garza.
She is the plus 800 underdog, and Starks immediately slaps Rhea and then leaps off the top to the floor and is cut off by a headbutt. And like we thought, the crowd starts chanting "Mommy" at Ripley, and they were not into believing Zoe Stark had a prayer here. Zark comes back, twisting Senton into the ring, and then Rhea regroups by rolling out to the floor and drives Stark into the post. Rhea's in control and throws her off the turnbuckle. She has her on the turnbuckle, grabs Zoe by the throat, and goes to throw her off the turnbuckle. Zoe was supposed to do some kind of reversal. I don't know what in God's name was the intention of this, because they both landed, and I was like, which one did what? And the announcers were just as confused. The audience was just as confused, and it was just something did not work here. I didn't know what they were doing.
Didn't look good, whatever it was supposed to be.
No. So Rhea just takes over, Northern Lights, and Zoe says, "Is that all you got, Rhea? Hit me." So Rhea proceeded to hit her, and the Riptide gets countered. Stark hits a German and a running knee. No reaction here for the near fall. And then the Z360 is caught, headbutt and Riptide, and Ripley wins in 9 minutes and 16 seconds. I thought this was the weakest match on the show, and I think it was hurt by the... listen, there was the same lack of believability that Dragon Lee was going to win, that The Miz was going to win, but this one did not overcome that. And I also thought like there was some stuff in here that just, it did not look tight. I expected a better match from these two, and it was just, even for 9 minutes, I thought this was more so the state of the challengers you have for Rhea Ripley, that it's already, you are against, you've got that working against you, that these matches, you know, with the right layout of a match, like we saw with The Miz, you can get people to believe in a challenger, but it's tough, and they didn't achieve it here.
No, this was very much, I think, meant to be a showcase for Rhea Ripley, or just a bit of a placeholder to keep her active before she gets her real challengers coming up, maybe towards WrestleMania season. And for anybody in that position, whether you're Shayna or you know, Raquel, or in this case Zoe Stark, it's going to be a big challenge. And I have to think, at least within the office, maybe sort of their expectations are lowered about what, you know, these matches are trying to achieve. I don't think she was put out there even with the hope of like getting a near fall. Maybe like at their best they could have achieved that, but there wasn't enough story put behind Zoe Stark for the audience to feel like she...
The story was, you've overlooked me, you're not paying attention, and she came into this match and still won in dominant fashion. I mean, this did not paint Zoe Stark as a whole lot to come out of this match with.
Well, she had paint on her face, so no. Okay.
She was dealing with a debilitating facial injury.
I thought she showed some pretty good fire. In particular, like, I mean, this was a bit of an audition for, like, you know, the in-ring sort of bloodline type of cinematic storytelling with her hit me, or hit me. Is that all you got? Hit me. You know, which they seem to love. So you know, that might be, I would say overall, I think Zoe, like on the microphone, has sounded competent. This whole maybe month didn't necessarily give me enough to feel like she's worthy of like a main event title challenge type of role. But as a mid-carder, I think she's like, you know, towards the top end of the pack. She can hold her own, certainly like in ring. So again, I think expectations are much lowered for these sort of like B show or B level Rhea Ripley title defenses. So what's up next for Rhea, you think?
I think they'll do Shayna over this next month sometime on television, and I think people are tired of these like lack of, you know, significant stakes attached to these women's title programs, where it's just you're just rubber stamping a challenger as the title challenger of the month. I think people want to see a Becky in there, a Jade Cargill in there, or at least elevate some of these women. Like, there's no shortage of them on Raw. Like, why can't we do a better job? Look what they did with The Miz in 4 weeks. Or like Zoe Stark, I didn't see any of that in this last 4 weeks of building her up, other than these backstage promos.
Well, The Miz is a very good promo, and can you find that level of promo within the women's division outside of a Becky? You know?
Well, maybe you find other means to get her over. Then, if it's, you know, telling someone's story or utilizing other attributes, or you go with someone else. Like, I feel like you should have like a program that you have to get the babyface over to a certain degree with people. And then the main event is Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominik Mysterio, and JD McDonagh against Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Randy Orton in the War Games match. Everyone comes out minus Randy Orton, and Priest and Drew are just locked on one another. Will they coexist is the question. And they mention that this is the same arena where Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes had their Hell in a Cell match last year. And we start off with Finn Balor and Seth Rollins, and Balor takes control, and this is where we do get some CM Punk chants. And Balor back body drops Rollins onto his crippled back, onto the metal between the rings. Hopefully he would be able to last for the next half hour. JD McDonagh is third, his first WWE PLE, they note. And so the heels have the advantage here, and we get the old reliable kendo sticks brought into the ring. Jey Uso is next. Every time he throws a strike, they're yelling yeet. The countdown hits 0, and Drew goes to enter, but Damian Priest tells him to stick to the plan. And in comes Damian Priest with a baton as his weapon and starts whipping guys, and they've got the advantage. Balor attacks the ribs and back of Jay with a chair. Sami Zayn is in next. He gets a huge reaction. Not because it's Sami Zayn, but because he takes out a table from underneath the ring and this place exploded. Like, dude, the table might have gotten a louder reaction than CM Punk. It's close, okay? The table was a worst number 2 on this show. Drew McIntyre is following them, and this is where we get Jay and Sami hitting the 1D onto Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. So I mean, heading into the match, like almost the main story outside of Randy Orton is Drew getting his revenge on Jay and being in the same cage as him. And I don't know if like it felt like that big, the moment they finally met. Like
he takes out the others, and then Jay is in the second ring, so he corners Jay in the second ring and yells, "Acknowledge what you did." Like, is that where we're at now? Because if you're forcing him to acknowledge what he did, Drew, the onus is on him to actually explain, what did Jay do at Clash at the Castle?
Exactly. Right.
Outline what you want him to acknowledge.
Well, maybe that's the end of this entire story. It's like, I watched back the footage. I have to apologize. You weren't.
Maybe Jay comes back and says, "You know what? I think I've been the victim of profiling here, because that was my brother, not me. We don't all look alike. Not even me and my brother."
It was certainly not him in Solo. Yeah.
So Cody Rhodes follows in, and they note the fact that Dusty created War Games, and Cody also created another big event in this city. Look at that. Yes. Cody pulls out a bull rope, and him and Rollins work together using the bull rope. Nothing like two men burying the hatchet by just massacring people with a rusty metal object.
You love to see it. Yes.
They crotch Balor, and man, this whole place is chanting "Dom, you suck" as the clock counts down, and Dominik is the final member in for Judgment Day. And Cole says that tonight is the longest he's ever spent behind bars, which was a good line.
Great line.
Very good line from Cole. Dominik starts the Three Amigos, but the babyfaces surround him. It's a 4-on-1 beatdown, and the crowd starts chanting Randy. Then they start chanting CM Punk. And Drew and Priest chokeslam Rollins, Cody, and Zayn all together. They take out Cody and Zayn with splashes and the coup de grace on Rollins, followed by a razor's edge to Rollins through a table. And when the clock hits 0, instead of Randy, Rhea Ripley runs down with a referee and the Money in the Bank briefcase. And she is about to cash in on Damian's behalf with Rollins laid out through the table when Randy's music plays, and this place explodes for Randall.
So does the man's body.
Dude, Randy was... Dude. He, the man looks svelte.
I guess that's a word. This man, like... This always happens, guys are off and they have all the time in the world, and what are they going to do? They're going to go to the gym. They're going to eat a lot of chicken breast and I guess whatever else, and they're going to come back like twice the size. So this is like the biggest I've seen Randy in like maybe since his early days.
This is what we're going to look like in 3 years.
Well, clearly, yeah. It's evolution.
So he comes out, place goes nuts. He gets, I wrote here, gets the pop of the night, but that was overwritten. And the match begins at just after the 29-minute mark. Cole noting that he had double fusion back surgery, and Orton faces off with Drew, rekindling that program. They do a 5-way draping DDT spot with all the baby faces, and then he signals for the RKO, and this place, dude, they were electric for this tease. Randy could have done nothing other than this RKO, and the crowd would have just ate it all up. And he then sees Jay, and he corners Jay, and he's questioning him. And then Jay saves Randy by super kicking Damian Priest, who was going to nail Randy from behind. RKO to Dominik, and then we see just the procession of finishers, a Cody cutter, a haluva kick, Uso splash, and finally JD is the only one standing. He tries to run up the cage to escape, where Zayn and It's Zayn and Rollins, and they throw him off of the cage into an RKO. And rather than Randy going for the pin, he defers to Cody, who hits the crossroads on Damian Priest, no less, and pins Priest in 34 minutes and 22 seconds. From the time Randy came in, they went like under 5 minutes. They went actually exactly 5
Well,
minutes.
first
So
of all, I mean, it felt a lot longer than 3 minutes that, Randy Orton's sort of interval it was, you know? The time between Dominik and Randy Orton's entrance felt a lot longer than 3 minutes to me.
well, they don't start the 3 minutes till the guy gets into the ring. So the whole entrance part
No,
does
but
not
Dom
count.
Dom was already in the ring.
Sorry, you're saying like
From the
his
moment
interval?
Dom entered the ring to Randy's, like, countdown felt a lot longer than 3 minutes to me.
It could have been. I don't know what the difference was, but they kept the like the match beyond portion pretty short, and it's
Which
not like
I
Randy.
which I loved because, like, from the moment Randy comes in, there's this incredible atmosphere, there's this incredible energy, and you just take that and you rush towards the finish, and it made the whole latter, like, I don't know, 5, 6 minutes of this entire thing feel electric. Um, I thought this War Games was outstanding, John, you know? Each one of the babyface entrants in this match at one point felt like the biggest babyface in the entire arena, and they will leave the show not with none of them being the biggest babyface in the entire arena. But it doesn't matter because I thought for this particular match, everybody felt like they were an important member. And that's why with the heels having the advantage, it felt like every entrant coming to bail, you know, a beloved babyface out. That felt significant. The body of the match felt significant. And I thought everything was also very well executed. You had a lot of little side stories that were being told here between Drew and Jay, Priest and Drew, Jay and Randy, of course. And I thought almost everything they planned was well responded to. It was well executed. The Money in the Bank tease done. We came into the show fully, you know, the surprise is spoiled, right? Randy Orton's going to be a part of this match. How are they going to toy with us to make the Randy Orton return feel like a surprise, even though they already told us? And they came up with the show long storyline, even though we all kind of like knew it was going to be bullshit. But the surprise on top of that surprise was the Money in the Bank tease, which I don't think you and I expected. And just to take our sort
How
of
would that have worked if Damian pinned Seth Rollins? Do
oh, it's
they win
completely
War Games?
I think the War Games match gets
Is the
thrown out
match
at that point.
paused? The match
Well,
beyond is the match paused as they do a Money in the Bank cash in the middle of
it
this.
would be a non-result, right? Like, wasn't that what happened with WrestleMania with Rollins cash in?
That wasn't a non-result. He just added himself to the match.
But the prior match had a non-result. The one-on-one match between was it Brock and Roman?
Um, okay, I guess. Yeah, it just became a three-way.
Whatever. It's not the point. The point was to take our sort of attention off of Randy Orton so that they can hit that music and surprise all of us. And I thought it worked tremendously well. So, man, everything, and then leading to the closing sequences of bop, 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 finish, 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 like all the way rushing to the end, including this amazing RKO, dude.
That for 18
Oh,
months, like you, that could have looked really awful. You know what I mean? If the timing was off, and boy, would have
oh,
that just been like a fart in church if like your return and you totally screw up a pretty not the most ambitious RKO, but a fairly
it was
complicated one for night
pretty
one.
ambitious, dude. A
Okay,
guy
for
free
I'm
falling.
saying of the elite ones we have seen, this one was not a shooting star in terms of timing, but it was like one that you've got to nail the timing for this night for this return, and
It
they did it.
looked flawless, and again, having that sort of, like, be the big high note at the end of this incredibly played solo, like, guitar solo, you know, in a song, like, I thought this match was great.
They did a great job. There was a ton of stories coming out of it, and semi overshadowed at the end because they're all celebrating in the ring, and then Cult of Personality plays, and out comes Punk. It's clobbering time, and just screams, "Whose town is this?" And a dude in the front row is just yelling, "Chicago, Chicago." I was hoping it would have been Scrum, but he was probably a very happy individual here.
I don't think
And
he
he
could
walked out.
I
And
don't
dude,
think
in
he
2 months here, like Punk looked pretty ripped here. His arms,
I mean, I guess, kinda hard
he's
to tell,
not
isn't it?
Randy, but hey,
No, he was not Randy Orton shape, but, yeah, I mean, listen, they yes, okay, like, CM Punk overshadows maybe the War Games match itself, but, I think more importantly, it takes this pay-per-view from being a very good pay-per-view to being even whatever you wanna say beyond, you know, a great pay-per-view with the number of surprises and the way they were able to kinda play with it.
dude,
Uh,
they're gonna do them. I don't care what Monday Night Football does on Monday. I think they're gonna do a huge number on Monday. The fact they did that number last week, 0.49 against 29 million viewers on for football.
yeah.
Um, man, it's like you get to promote Punk back for the first time in 10 years.
Orton.
Like I would promote, he should start the show. Like that's going to be your peak quarter. Put Punk on first and go from there.
Yeah, you have Orton.
And maybe you save Randy for SmackDown or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Or they just put all hands on deck on Monday.
I think you need interaction with like the rest of the team. You know, Randy Orton helped them win this match, right? People want to see Randy with Cody. They want to see him with Jay. They want to see him with all these other guys. But they have it's an embarrassment of riches, I guess they have on Monday.
There's a ton. So anyway, that is
what are the directions you see coming out of this match for the men?
Well, certainly I see them continuing something with Drew and Damian Priest for sure. They teased that one pretty heavily. And then on the other side,
you had Cody pinning Damian as well. I don't know if that's supposed to lead us specifically anywhere.
I mean, I'm sure it was done for a reason, because you easily could have had JD there to eat the pin. I think everyone assumed that it would be him or Dominik in that role. So obviously would have been done for a reason. You do have, now that you're throwing Punk into the mix here, like that is, I mean, depending where Randy and Punk are situated, let's assume it's Raw. That's a lot of baby faces. That's a lot of baby faces and more than you have spots for. And someone should be either moving or turning. And I would say like Drew is kind of in the spot where you're already assuming he has turned at this point, but still like that is 6 major baby faces right there that we're talking about on Raw. They're very, very stacked on Raw, but Raw should be stacked at the moment. Like it is SmackDown. You need to maintain it. You don't just put nothing into it, but that's more of a lame duck show. And Raw is the show that you are putting all your eggs in over the next 9 months.
Sure. Yeah. And with Punk, I mean, with Punk and with Randy, I guess they're not tied to any particular brand, but with Punk, we don't even know what his schedule is. This might be, he might make an appearance and then he might go away for a long, long time. So a lot remains to be seen, but there are certainly a lot of questions and a lot of interesting possibilities with this group.
All right, that was the Survivor Series. I would say a strong show built on the men's War Games match. I thought the women's War Games match was a really entertaining match as well, and Gunther and Miz was enjoyable as well. I would say the other 2 matches less so, but that was the Survivor Series. I still think it was a very strong show.
I thought it was really
an amazing crowd. Like the Chicago crowd was excellent, and again, this was a man, when you throw in all the sponsorships for Ruffles and Slim Jim and everything, dude, they probably took in a ridiculous amount for this one night.
I think the War Games is such a winning concept at this point. And again, I think it's not only like, pay-per-view worthy, but I think it's stadium worthy. So I wonder if it's something they'll consider next year as they increase their profile of these stadium events. But I thought it was a really excellent show. You had 2 War Games matches that I think delivered. Gunther and Miz that like really they kind of made out of nothing into something into a very entertaining program, and even Dragon Lee versus Santos as a last minute match. Just here's like a little bit of a bonus lucha libre match. I thought was very entertaining, and when you keep a show down to only 5 matches, it keeps the standard really high, and I'm not left feeling like I sat through like a lot of bullshit.
Dude,
so
this was a like 2 hour and 50-minute show. Perfect length.
Happy.
Perfect length.
And of course you ended with obviously a great main event, but like maybe the biggest surprise they could have with CM Punk's return. So definite thumbs up match, a show.
I want to go through some of the press conference notes, and Brandon Thurston has put these together, and he will be back on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. with WrestleNomics if you want to check out his show. But Paul Levesque spoke and says, this was the highest grossing Survivor Series in history and the highest grossing event in Chicago, with the exception of WrestleMania 22, which it was neck and neck with. That tells you how successful that WrestleMania was. Triple H says that CM Punk's return came together very quickly, which is why it stayed very tight. He calls Punk a conversation starter. Love him or hate him. If the fans want it, then let's go, and we'll figure out the rest from there. On Punk's past in WWE, Levesque says, I'm a different person. He's a different person. This is a different company. He says, we're thrilled to have him back in WWE. It's where he belongs. Oh my God.
Look at the thumb pointing photo between these two. Who, like, is this on the level of the CM Vince McMahon Bret Hart picture?
Oh, the one where he's in the studio and they decided to just put that picture out there for everybody. Yeah, this was probably the last hurdle in the contract negotiations. Like you got to do the photo with Paul. We're sorry.
That's
Nick Houseman asks if TKO pushed for Punk's return. Levesque says there has been zero push past WWE. He says himself, Nick Khan knew, but very few people knew about Punk's return past that. Levesque is asked about concussion protocol in relation to comments Jon Moxley recently made. And he puts over WWE's wellness policy and mentions how the Rey Mysterio injury was recently handled. He says he'd put their protocol up against any sports organization. And more notes here as we I think that is about all that we have there. So, I mean, you can take from that what you will. That this was, I would take that as, pretty forthcoming that this would have been a deal put together rather quickly. I just don't think this would have been one kept under wraps for too long if this had been any significant amount of time before this came together. And I'd be curious, like, what was the tipping point for them? Because, you can look at this, and if you're there's times when your business is in a certain state, and okay, there's risk here, but there's also reward, and we just have to go in with the best thought. It's not like WWE is in this situation where they need anything at the moment. But if this works out, they're going to look brilliant.
Well, realistically, like, what is the damage that can be done by having a Phil Brooks come in here? Let's say he has the worst run ever, okay? Like, engages in a fight in the locker room. Like, ultimately,
a divided locker room, poor morale. I mean,
it's possible, but I just don't really see that happening with the machine.
Business is great, and here you're bringing in this guy. I mean,
I just don't see that happening, like, with a machine as big as the WWE, with as much money as is at stake here. Everybody's going to fall in line, you would think, in this company.
I mean, there was a lot at stake in AEW, and that happened. Like, you had a show built around this guy, and he was making a ton of money there as well.
I think that'll be a big conversation coming out of, this Punk run after he's been established, and certainly after WrestleMania, whatever role he's going to have. The question of whether or not it was the environment that wronged the whole situation, if for AEW and CM Punk, or if it was CM Punk himself.
All right, we're going to open up the phone lines. Let's keep it to just a thought or two, because we do have a written feedback as well. We want to keep this concise. So with that, let us open the phone lines.
Yeah, we have a lot of people watching us live here at youtube.com/postwrestling. So again, please do us a favor, subscribe, get us up to 16,000. What a nice round number. Okay. If everybody goes in there, hits the like, hits the subscribe, just jet us up right there. It does us a big favor. But also thank you, especially to those of you who decided to send super chats tonight. You guys hop the line with our feedback section, and let's start things off here with Jonathan Mayer, who sends $5. Thank you for the support, Jonathan. He says, likely, unlikely, CM Punk wrestles a match for WWE in 2025. Good work, guys. So does CM Punk last a year in this company, basically?
I mean, this is just like guess. So I'll say likely.
I'll say likely as well. Let's go to, so Gerard Brown sends us 2 super chats. Thank you so much, Gerard. He says, I was there live tonight, and that felt like WWE's 1-2 punch a la All Out 2021 with Bryan and Cole. Certainly came across that way to me watching at home as well. Thank you very much, Gerard, for the support. We go to the Psycho45, who sends us $5 super chat. He says, definitely shot that Punk returned so soon, but excited to see how they weave him in. Also, good to see R-Truth. Thank you for the coverage, guys. And then we also go to Abraham Valea, who sends $5. Ending copyright logo can't fool me anymore, Triple H. CM Punk is back, and the first thing he did was retire Ryback. I'm not sure what that is in reference.
I don't know. I'm not up to date on the latest with Ryback.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I blocked him.
Yeah, you guys are probably keeping up with what's going on online more than we are. And but thank you for the super chat. We go to Andy, who sends 100 rupees. Thank you, Andy. He says, I love both War Games matches. I wish Lee and Gunther got more time. Great Punk moment, but does it unsettle some stars whose deals are up in 24? 8 out of 10.
Does it unsettle some stars whose deals are up in 24?
Meaning, like, perhaps people in AEW whose contracts are up in 2024, or WWE wrestlers whose contracts are up in 24 that might not want to share the same locker room with the Punk.
I don't see it having any bearing over those issues. I mean,
I don't think so.
The key ones you would think about are locked up long term, and And even that, I wouldn't necessarily look at as, life or death, that it would have prevented it either.
I also think like it's too early to tell. I think a lot of people, everybody will be forced to give this a chance now that it's a reality, to see how well the guy integrates. And listen, again, at some of the numbers and the money that's being thrown out there, even if you have to share a locker room with CM Punk, I don't think that would change people's decisions one way or another about whether or not they would come, unless you're maybe some of the Kenny Omega and the Bucks aren't even eligible at this point. So
no, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Jack Perry is coming to WWE.
I wouldn't even say like that's like unreasonable to like think. Like I really don't think like people think like you're gonna make like career decisions based on like someone in the locker room you don't get along with. It's just like there's a lot of this stuff in professional wrestling. It's just this one is more kind of high profile.
Let's go to Ryan G, who sends $5. Thank you, Ryan. He says, congrats on 6 years to post wrestling. When or how do we get a remake of your Bludgeon Brothers videos?
You have the originals. That's there's no need to remake.
Yeah, I think if we did anything else, I don't know if we, redo those. But thank you very much for the reminder. Yeah, 6 years coming up. I would say in a month time. So
about that, I think so.
All right, thank you very much, Ryan. And then lastly, Jetski D23 says CM Punk saved this whole event, which I would greatly disagree with.
No, they could have gone off the air at that point, and I still would have had the same reaction to the show. I mean, it was big news item to have at the end of the show, but certainly didn't make the show for me.
We got another one here from B Season, who sends $5. Thank you, B Season. He says CM Punk back in WWE. Wow, what a time to be a wrestling fan. Think about like our end of year show is going to be something else this year. I think, just maybe focusing on the CM Punk saga of where he was a year from now, or sorry, a year prior to this to now, multiple returns, firings, it's crazy.
It's full circle because a year ago you had the same kind of speculation if this guy would ever come back to AEW, and I think many felt he wouldn't, even if wrestling history would suggest the other.
Thank you guys for your super chats. You can keep them coming, and I will cut in to the broadcast to read them. But for now, we go to postwrestlingcafe.com, where all of our patrons who join us have the ability to call in on our pay-per-view review shows, as well as every Friday on Rewind to SmackDown. And let's start things off here with a rare appearance here from the Godfather, straight from the Nubian Wrestling Advocates, Nate Milton. Well, this has to be a special night for you to come to talk about the Muffin Man.
What a time to be alive, brothers. What a time to be alive. It's funny because, this was a good show, like a really good show, a solid show. And it ended in a punctual time. Like I was, looking at the clock, 11:45, like, cool, I can go to bed, get ready for work tomorrow, listen to John and Wai in the morning. And then the Muffin Man walks out, Wai Ting, and I'm like, boys, we got to put on a pot of coffee because we're going to be here for a while. It's funny because I sent you a message earlier today, Wai, and I was like, you, me, and John need to reconnect because all three of us haven't talked probably since like the Don West passing. And it's like, it's too long for me not to talk to John and Wai. And what do you know, John Pollock, the Muffin Man delivered. He brought us this blessing. It's not even Christmas yet. And CM Punk is out here giving us presents.
Yeah, he did return. What was your reaction, Nate? And where do you see this going short term?
I thought this was something that was going to happen. If you listen to the NWA podcast, me, Andrew, and the professor have kind of gone around on this CM Punk returning to WWE topic for a minute. I've always thought he was going to come back because, Wai, you remember the old Lock song, Money, Power, Respect, like what you need in life. To me, CM Punk is all about, money, pride, and feeling like he's disrespected. Like he always seems to be that type of person that needs an adversary. And so I thought it was going to happen sooner or later. I was thinking maybe Rumble. But for him to come back tonight, it's just like WWE, some minor booking quibbles and qualms I have, John, aside, they're in a good place right now. And this feels like you add CM Punk to that mix.
Oh, I think Nate might have dropped out by accident. So please call back, Nate. Leaving us on a cliffhanger there, unfortunately. So do call back, Nate. We will go to you. For now, let's go to some of our other callers, and let's go to another infrequent caller here, Des from California. Welcome, Des.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm trying to become more frequent, but you know, it comes in waves, but the post wrestling family is always with me here in my pocket. So I appreciate that.
Thank you
you,
so
Des.
much, Des.
My gosh, guys, I kind of wrote this off as just not happening. WWE, I think, did a very good job. At, I know they at least told SRS, who I follow quite a bit as well, that they didn't have a fit for Punk in the company or something to that effect, and it seemed pretty convincing. So whoever was behind that, kudos to them. They worked me. They did I will only hope that Punk's promo is at the start of Raw tomorrow, so I don't have to watch all 3 hours of it, and see kind of where he's gonna slot in. My thought is with doing Punk and Seth for the title, but I don't know. What do you guys think of my thought is, what do you guys think of AEW right now? Like, it must be a really, I think Tony Khan is like on his fourth White Claw this evening. Just kind of Punk coming in, compounding just the negative criticism that AEW has been getting. The kind of I haven't seen Collision yet, so maybe the Continental Classic turned around, but the first presentation of it didn't seem to go over so well. So how are you guys feeling about that? And I did tune in late, so if you guys are ready to touch on it, then I do apologize. But you guys are doing a great job. I just started looking at Post Wrestling again, like the website, and you guys have like completely become like the new go-to source for news. You guys have replaced some of the I don't even use an aggregator anymore. So thank you, John Pollock, and thank you, Andrew Thompson. And I'll let you guys get back to doing what you do best and talking. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks a
so
lot,
much.
Des. We
Yeah, and
appreciate it.
especially for the plug for our website, which we put really a lot of resources into. So a lot of you guys might simply, take in Post Wrestling through audio or video, but I mean, pretty much, half of our business is at postwrestling.com, where Neil, Andrew, Sino, a bunch of other people put in a ton of work every single day. John Pollock, of course, always there with his thoughts and takes. So postwrestling.com. Thank you very much, Des, for that plug. Any thoughts, John, on Des's question?
I mean, you can look at it like the biggest match to make is him and Roman for sure. And like, I don't know if you hold off on anything with him. Like, you look at like for the Rumble, I would say your options are Randy or Punk to do at the Rumble. And maybe the option is with Punk that, listen, let's get the big matches out of the way, and let's, like, time might not be on our side here. Like, this is like, if all things are equal, like you still are, dealing with somebody that is, not, could get a few years out of it, but you don't know.
I mean, I think I don't even know, honestly, if like I see him main eventing. It really would depend on I think the opponent. So listen, they've got the possibility of Roman versus The Rock, okay, and that would leave Cody open for a CM Punk on a first night, which would be two great main event level shows. But let's say you're doing Roman and Cody. Well, having anybody against CM Punk, I think, is at least a good semi-main event for that first night, right? You, and any possibility, I think is strong, because he's still fresh. He's fresh with everybody. He hasn't been in the company in 10 years. So they have a lot to choose from. As far as like what Des was asking about AEW, the discourse is going to make this feel like it's a win for WWE and a loss for AEW. It's not a loss for AEW. They won by not having this guy who was a bad fit for his company in the company. It's a win professional wrestling fans, I think, because it's getting us all that more excited. But I think we're all mature enough to be able to grade every single product by their own merits. And I don't think we have to have this, affect an opinion of AEW one way or another. Let's just judge AEW by the quality of their own shows.
I agree. I don't look at this as like you released Punk, and I don't think that was the wrong decision. And you had to know that that was the whole debate about, do you let this guy go knowing that you might be handing this guy over to WWE? Like, that was like, this can't come out of total left field. Like, no matter who you are, like this, it was, at least something that you would have to think would be a possibility. And you had to get into Paul Levesque's head to know that. Like, this is certainly an instance of, if Paul Levesque is ultimately the one making the call here, of somebody that, like, this is a Vince move in the sense that, and Vince, by the way, like, he did not have interest in bringing back a CM Punk, but historically, Vince has made amends with a lot of people when there's been business to be had, and there's definitely business to make with this guy. And it would suggest like letting, past issues, at least subside.
Mm-hmm. We have reconnected with Nate Milton, but before that, we go to a super chat from Andrew Brown, who sends $5. Thank you, Andrew. He says, "What's a bigger deal, David Tennant returning to Doctor Who or CM Punk going back to WWE?" I'm going to say CM Punk because I do not watch Doctor Who. You don't watch Doctor Who? You haven't seen the Gremlins? You haven't seen Doctor Who? No, and I don't intend to. But thank you very much for the super chat anyway, Andrew. Let's go back to brother Nate Milton. Welcome. What happened to you?
My Wi-Fi, man. I don't know if I got too excited or my Wi-Fi was just like, hey, it's clobbering time, pal. But I'm back, boys, and way. Word of caution. These Who heads, they're real on these fandom streets. I don't know if you want that smoke, brother.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I'll watch my back.
I don't know where did we cut off, John?
Just give me your thoughts on Punk coming in and where you go direction-wise with him in the short term.
See, I think Punk is somebody who obviously, brings a lot of buzz, brings a lot of excitement. Much like you said, John, I'm going to be interested to see what that number is on Monday going up against Monday Night Football. But I think for Punk, it's maximize the value while he's here, because there's no guarantee he's going to be here a year from now, right? Like, that's not this dude's history. He is somebody who's here for a good time, not necessarily for a long time. So, I heard you guys talking about, the main event of WrestleMania, the often disputed Wai Ting main event of WrestleMania, night one, night two, who knows? But it's always been my belief that if you are going to get The Rock back, then you got to do Rock and Roman one night and then Cody and Punk another night. To me, that's the best bang for your buck in terms of the characters you have kind of assembled.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Any other thoughts, Nate, on War Games tonight?
I like, as I said on Twitter, I like the way the WWE's kind of tweaked and tinkered with War Games, which is a concept I've loved, going back to the 90s and in WCW, and made it fit in a modern context. The women's match was solid. I could have used a little bit more, but the men's match, I like that we had a sprint, and I think John brought it up when we got to the match beyond. It was just a sprint as soon as Randall Kwame Orton, and he only gets the pass for one night. I'm thinking of 10-Day Ray is in the rafters somewhere, but Randall Kwame Orton came out, did his thing, did his 3-4 minutes worth of work. I don't know, even though it was cool, John, how they integrated the cash in. I don't know if that would have been an actual cash in though, because it wasn't like a sanctioned. Because nobody can get pinned until everybody's in the ring for the match beyond. So I don't know the logistics of that, John Pollock. But
maybe that was Randy's concern too. The logistics of it all.
I got to uphold the integrity of this cash in. But I thought it was a good show. And I think, John, the fact that it was something where we didn't have this sprawl, like we kind of get sometimes with some of these pay-per-views where we're just here for hours. They gave us five or six matches. I don't remember how many. And they just hit. Like even Miz and Gunther hit for me in a way that I didn't think it was going to hit. So I thought it was a good show. It's momentum. Like I said, man, it's KD joining the Warriors when you bring Punk into a WWE product that already kind of feels like it's got momentum. So I'm excited. I hope they don't use this as an excuse to finish Devontae's story prematurely or not end it the right way. But I'm actually excited. It's a good time to be a fan. And I hope, even though it's not going to happen I hope that this doesn't turn into some tribalistic thing, because people act funny.
What would make you think such a thing?
People act funny, John Pollock, when you put on somebody else's colors, when you go to death row and you leave Bad Boy. Everybody should leave Bad Boy this time of year, if anybody knows the news. But I think it's a good time to be a fan, John. It's a good time to cover this stuff, and I had a good time reconnecting with you guys. Like I said, it's been too long, so. I got some vacation time coming up in December, boys. So maybe we can make it happen.
We got to do an extended version of one of these. I don't know about a 3-hour long extended version, but certainly an extended version of one of these. So thank you so much, Nate. I hope this is a regular occurrence for the big shows. It's a big pay-per-view when The Godfather.
I mean, I will say if it's a 3-hour big show, this might become an occurrence. Them AEW shows. I'm sorry, Tony Khan. I can't be up at 2 a.m. and got to be at work at 9. That just the math isn't mathing, TK.
Thank you,
Wow,
Nate, for the call.
this new allotment of pay-per-view time, it works very well for the Nate Milton crossover here. Everyone can catch the NWA podcast, phenomenal show each and every month with Nate Milton, Andrew Thompson, and Chris Ely. And Nate, you always have an open door here.
Thank you, brothers. Have a good night.
You too, Nate.
Thank you, Nate. Let's go up next to a super chat from Kashan Amarali. Thank you, Kashan. He says, does it seem to be Punk and Seth judging by Seth having to be restrained, giving the finger? Great job as always.
I didn't even catch that portion of it, so I would have to go back and watch.
I didn't either, but I mean, that's the natural, sort of match you make outside of Roman, right? For one thing, Seth is a champion. For two, I think it's been somewhat documented, like Seth's public comments about CM Punk. So that's probably it's okay. If Cody's not the match, then maybe Seth is the match, for CM Punk at WrestleMania. So I did how much of the talent knew about this beforehand? We're not even exactly sure. So what is it? Just Seth, trying to build something himself on the moment? We don't know anything yet. So, but I would almost guarantee that would be a direction that they were planning. So thank you, Kashan. Let's go up next to another call. And this one, let's go to Brian. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Oh, no problem at all. Happy to hear from Nate Milton tonight. And yeah, so cute that we could try to judge separate companies on their own merits. That's such a cute thought that we could possibly do that. But thumbs up show overall. The two War Games matches, definitely the biggest positives for me, and a lot of great moments amongst the two of them, from Dakota Kai's dumbwaiter to Randy Orton's spots and the huge RKO and the parade of finishers. That was all well and good. The Seth Rollins flipping off Punk, that's reference to fan footage that was tweeted out. And for whatever reason, Michael Cole and Corey Graves were the ones holding him back by the cage, and like the Judgment Day were standing up. So kind of almost felt like a work shoot type of thing for the fans. So, but yeah, I definitely see that being a direction. But yeah, this is just this road to WrestleMania between now and Mania, just very crowded and going to be very busy. So I'm excited to see how it all comes about. And yeah, that's all the polite things I could say right now. I'm not like taking an optimistic approach to this or a pessimistic approach. I'm just watching in terms of Punk. So see how it goes.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for the thoughts. So maybe just as an aside, do you expect any reference to AEW with CM Punk's first promo?
No.
Okay. We shall see. Let's go up next to Jake from the Windy City. Jake, were you in attendance at all tonight?
Hey guys, yeah, I just came back from the show, back in my house now after I had to wait for an hour because pretty much like after the show, the whole flock came together behind the Allstate Arena where the wrestlers were trying to exit, and pretty much it was a standstill for a lot of us in the parking lots. And yeah, when Punk came out and went to try to exit, pretty much the flock came together and they were blocking his way during that time. So it's like everybody was taking pictures and selfies, and it was just chaotic, man. Like I seeing myself and taking videos of it. I mean, like, yeah, there was a lot of like various chants, like CM Punk and Tony sucks. Yeah, it was very chaotic, and I just couldn't believe what happened. So, and I got to say, like Dez, I pretty much put this by the wayside that yeah, it's not going to happen. But yeah, I'm really impressed by what the WWE accomplished here, and putting all their past aside and Punk as well, and came out with just a memorable moment. Yeah, it was tremendous.
So I guess maybe speaking to you as somebody from Chicago, were you looking forward to CM Punk being in the WWE? And do you think CM Punk being in the WWE was a good idea? I asked this to maybe request that you can divorce tonight's feelings aside. Like going into the show, did you think CM Punk going in was a good idea? Because I feel like confident in saying that we all saw this happen and we're all very excited about it now. But before, how did you feel?
I was kind of skeptical on how he would, like, how his behavior would be seen here coming along. But Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Wei. I still have some skepticism myself, health in the back of my mind, and hoping that hoping I'm wrong here. But like with tonight aside, like those feelings definitely went by the wayside. But yeah, I mean, like we were like it was definitely like a 60-40 chance, within myself and especially among with other people in my section as well. There was some boos and some pro punk chants as well. But yeah, I gotta say, I really do feel for Randy, because it kind of took, I don't know about you guys, but it kind of took a little bit of the shine off of Randy's return. But I will say, like, when everybody was leaving the arena, the flock definitely came back to the respect definitely came back to Randy as his music hits, and he was taking pictures along with the fans. And but yeah, I mean, even without the punk stuff, I'd still say this was a very strong show. I mean, Miz and Gunther really knocked it out of the park and exceeded my expectations. Expectations with some of their fluency in the ring and their movements. So, but yeah, I mean, it was like the show itself was chaotic, but like the post show was definitely exceeded that when wrestlers were trying to come out of the arena, and we saw everybody like Punk was there, JD McDonagh, and we saw Io and Kairi and Bayley Bayley like just being herded by all the fans that were around them, and like I kind of felt bad for a lot of them. It was like all the celebrities trying to get away from the paparazzi. It was crazy.
Very cool. Thank you very much for the call, Jake. I appreciate your live report there for us.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our wind away in a couple weeks, guys. So thanks so much. Thanks, guys, so much for doing this.
Thank you, Jake. Talk to you soon. Let's go up next to Muggin. Hey, Muggin.
What is life? They always come back. They always come back. Ooh. Man.
I like these various introductions you've been trying out in the recent appearances.
All off the top. I don't practice. Yeah. All off the top. Boy, oh boy, man! Survivor Series this year could rival the one in 2002, which many people consider to be the best one ever, because it was already a strong show, and we complete with Randy Orton's return, which was excellent. I mean, man, he looked fantastic. I mean, he played the hits. And I was scared, and I bit on the part where he was about to hit RKO J. They had some words, and then that just went away. Mm-hmm. And Judgment Day did their job to like make everybody look great. And McDonagh, even though I can't stand him, like really did his part to make the last RKO look fantastic. And of course, the Rhea run-in really had me on edge, because there's no way they're going to catch it in that briefcase. All that being said, I kept my guard up when it came to CM Punk, and I went downstairs to help her mother cook, and then when I came back upstairs, it already happened. I was like, "What is this? I missed it," and, whew, man,
the signature got you.
Yeah, it did. It did get me, and hell just froze over again, and well, Triple H is the only person that's happy to have him.
Okay. Yeah, this is terrible for radio, Muggin, but he's holding up a picture of Paul Heyman on his cell phone. Yeah. So
imagine the scenes.
I think that's a natural connection for a feud with Roman Reigns, isn't it?
Potentially.
The former client, Paul Heyman guy, now feuding with a Roman Reigns, who's a Paul Heyman guy. So
oh my goodness. Like
could be fun.
Okay, Muggin.
I'm just look. I promise the excitement's gonna wear off tomorrow, but in the moment, it's just like all these possibilities running through my head. I mean, you got Reigns, you got Rollins, who was basically who didn't look too happy because he was flipping him off as he went off the air. Yeah. Okay, now that being put aside, Miz and Gunther overachieved. I mean, Miz played a smart game by not going toe to toe with him. He tried to be crafty and try to cheat, which was clever, because going toe to toe with Gunther is just
Muggin. We can't really do a full match, full show recap, unfortunately, because we're running up to the top of the hour. We're going to try to cut this off before we hit 2. But
and finally, the War Games match was excellent. The women's War Games match was excellent. Io was recreating that spot, the trash can spot from 3 years ago. It was very good. Bayley was MVP, and come Friday, she's getting the boot.
We shall see.
Okay.
Thank you, Muggin. Appreciate the call as always. Let's go up next to Hansi. Hey, Hansi.
What's going on, man? There's a I mean, for a five match show, it's still pretty tiring. Still, I'm not cut out to go out for these pay-per-views, but I thought the show itself.
They're not getting much shorter than this, Hansi. This is probably the shortest one you're gonna get.
Wait, I think it's the advertisements and the promo packages that like make it kind of more exhausting for me. I don't know. But I agree with you. I mean, it's not like how exhausted I am with AEW shows and pay-per-views and all that. But I thought the women's match. I think I wasn't as into the creative going in for the women's match. Like, there was intriguing stuff about it, but I just wasn't as invested. I thought it was still decent. The men's one I really, really liked. I thought Orton looked fucking awesome. Sorry, I don't want to swear too often, but no, I thought Orton looked awesome. I thought like it was laid out a lot better. I thought the characters were all heated. I like the Santos match, and I like the Miz match delivered for me for what it was. I mean, I just like that Miz was kind of going. At the end of the day, people were mad that Miz didn't win, and I was like, it's like, listen, at the end of the day, I didn't think he was gonna win, but there's nothing wrong with heating up an IC title match to make people care that you want to win. You know what I mean? So even if people thought they was gonna win, that's still cool that they got a good match out of it. And before I go, the CM Punk stuff. I expected as the week went on. There was like an account on Reddit that said he had inside knowledge. And he's like, if I'm wrong, you can ban me from the subreddit forever. So I guess that guy is gonna be like, given. Someone's like he's an insider. So I don't know. They always had that on Reddit. But I mean, listen. I know it's business. I just think it's funny that the company that almost killed him, he's going back, but maybe that will lead for good promos, I guess. I don't know, right? But I am looking forward to the more challengers he has on there. And I actually would have Seth and CM Punk be the Rumble match, because the footage I saw, I'm already on Seth's side, because like Seth was like trying to go at him, and they're holding him back. So I thought that was pretty cool. But for TV, I could see him doing Nakamura for a bit. I don't know. Maybe if Nakamura's targeting Cody. But yeah, I agree with you guys that Orton should go to SmackDown, I think. But it's going to be interesting. Do you guys, before I go, do you guys think for WrestleMania, we're going to get this forced discourse around, who should main event? Should it be Cody, or is a big money match Roman Reigns? I can see them do. I can think that they'll be forced into doing like a triple threat or something like that. But I actually would be interested in seeing how that discourse plays out between the who would be the bigger match. Because honestly, I'd be more excited for a Roman Reigns and CM Punk match. That's been like built since the podcast, and I've been looking forward to that for the whole. They got so much ammo with Paul Heyman and the history of that. So I'll leave you guys with that. But anyways, good show, guys. I enjoyed your recap, man. Peace out.
Thanks, you, Hansi. I think they'll certainly play with the idea that Punk could rival any of the champions, and how that might disrupt Cody's campaign for Roman Reigns' title. Ultimately, it's
the big match to make. Like that is the big match to make, and it's one that you. Unlike Cody, you can't bank on Punk for like next year if you're going to do it. But that also doesn't have to be at Mania either.
Yeah, I see them ultimately sticking with Cody and Roman Reigns. But listen, the sort of Dwayne Johnson variable completely skews that. So they have a lot of big players for this WrestleMania season. So we'll see how they handle it. Okay, last call very quickly. Brandon from New Jersey. What did you think of tonight's show?
Can you hear me?
No.
Yes, we can.
What's going on? Yeah, I thought it was pretty crazy, man. I didn't expect that one bit, man. I thought we'd move on with our lives and maybe they'd save this for like Royal Rumble season. But yeah, man, R-Truth coming back, that's a incredible
I had no doubt in my mind that is where you were going. I had like literally no doubt at all that was what you were talking about.
Oh man, R-Truth, that had me in stitches, man. I didn't expect that to happen. Man. He's a funny guy, man. Witty dude. But nah, I mean, CM Punk, I like this outfit too. It looked like he was gonna do like a Mater D at a Starbucks or something with the white tee and stuff.
The Bryan Danielson special.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Okay.
Triple H all up in the videos, man.
That is right.
Is this going to get you out to Lincoln Financial Field next April?
I'm more excited for the DDT show in Philly. But yeah, I'll probably show up. You never know. Are you gonna be there?
No, probably not. I think I'm staying home.
Oh man! All right, guys. I'll let you go. It's been a long night. I just wanted to check in, say hello, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, man.
Short and sweet.
Olivier Aubin-Mercier, 2-time winner.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
My first Canadian champion.
Okay. Good night, Brandon. Thank you.
Good
What
night,
did
guys.
what did he win?
He won the lightweight PFL championship, the $1 million prize for the second year in a row. So,
Oh wow, good for him.
dude, one of the highest earners in Canadian MMA, probably has made the second most amount of money of any Canadian. I would bet in those 2 years he's made more than Rory McDonald did.
Wow, unbelievable. Well, very
Always
nice
a
guy.
cool guy, Olivier Aubin-Mercier.
All right, let's go to some feedback at forum.postwrestling.com, where our Post Wrestling Cafe patrons can leave their written thoughts after every one of our shows. Let's start here. I'll start, John, with BG from the UK. A 3-hour pay-per-view was much appreciated in the UK. I was at All In the summer at Wembley Stadium for CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. I really hope Punk makes it to Mania, as we were at Mania 30 and missed out on Punk at the Superdome when he left after the Rumble. What an absolutely crazy 14 months for CM Punk. So BG is really hoping that CM Punk stays in this company for 4 months, 4 or 5 months. So we'll see.
There you go. Cody from Maine. Almost everyone goes back. Turns out Punk was no exception. Surprising, but perhaps it shouldn't be, even if it's the place that made him sick in the first place. He was hardly the first to heavily criticize the company only to go back. Spite is one hell of a motivator. For the first time in a decade, the side he was most spiteful towards wasn't the WWE, with changes to the corporate structure that sees hostile faces in a weaker spot than nearly a decade ago. Perhaps with certain MMA-based allies now in the picture to act as mediator, along with a bitter breakup with the only other viable show in town, and I'm sure a whole lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure some of those things had something to do with it. All right, let's go up next to Manny from Pacoima. Did I stop being a fan once the AEW drama started? Yes. Did I never want to see Punk in AEW or in another company? Yes. Was I excited when Living Color released a remaster of Cult of Personality yesterday? Yes. Did I jump out of my seat when his music hit to end off the show? Hell yeah. Really solid pay-per-view overall. The Women's War Games match was excellent. Miz versus Gunther had me believing a title change could happen. Santos versus Dragon Lee was good for the time it was given, though I'm iffy on the Destroyer being called the South of the Border Destroyer. Name it after an Aztec god instead. Now I'm off to buy the officially licensed WWE CM Punk merch. Jeez, yes.
All right. Here was the joke that earlier today Ryback tweeted, if CM Punk returns tonight, I will retire. So that was the
okay.
The promise from Ryback. Let's go to Nas here from New York City. Really great sub 3-hour show, even before Punk came out. What do you think the chain of command at TKO was for re-signing CM Punk? Is it something that would have been signed off on just by Triple H and Nick Khan? Also, what role Vince may have played in the decision-making process? I mean, if you go by like what was stated, it seems like this was a Paul Levesque, Nick Khan initiative.
Simple as that, right? You know, we haven't seen the press conference yet, but John read over some notes. I'm sure more details will be revealed in the days ahead. And that wraps it up, John, for our Survivor Series post show. Again, thank you to everybody who is watching us live. Do us a favor, subscribe, youtube.com/postwrestling. We're back every Monday, Wednesday, and for our Post Wrestling Cafe patrons every Friday and more. Tons of bonus shows here out in the cafe. Over 1,000 bonus shows currently in our archives, including this coming week's edition of Rewind Away, John.
Yes, we will be chatting ECW December to Dismember, featuring CM Punk. From December of 2006, we will go back. We will look at the state of ECW 6 months into its relaunch under the WWE umbrella. So a whole look at WWECW coming up this Thursday on Rewind Away. And all we ask is you hit the subscribe button, but if you want to take the extra jump and join us, postwrestlingcafe.com. It helps support Post Wrestling and all the people that work for the site as well, with all of these multiple shows on a monthly basis. And you will get Collision Course dropping on Sunday with Kate from Montreal and John Cena.
Not just Collision Course, but I guess Rampage, the Rampage Romp. Okay, is what I'm calling it, because another 3-hour show from AEW. So get caught up with everything. I'm assuming most of you missed by listening to Kate
with a CM Punk reference, no less, on AEW programming tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, there you go. You got to tune in to hear Kate and John dissect the bigger CM Punk news out of Malachi Black's mouth. All right, that's it for us. Thanks to everyone that tuned in. A lot of people logging in for this show. We're back Monday night with Rewind to Raw moments after the show. So that is it for our Survivor Series review. Have a good night.